Am I the a-hole for not lying about my sister's whereabouts? My sister Jessie is married to a man named Kevin. I have no idea what's going on in their marriage, but Jessie once used me to lie to her husband that she was over at my place when she wasn't. I hated lying to him, and I told Jessie to never put me in that position ever again. A while ago, Kevin called me late at night, asking if Jessie was over at my place because she claimed we were having a girls' night out. I didn't know what to say, and when he heard Seinfeld playing in the background, he got suspicious. I got so fed up that I bluntly told him Jessie wasn't with me, and I hadn't seen her all day. Jessie and Kevin are getting divorced now, but my sister refuses to tell anybody why. She blames me and still isn't talking to me. Jessie claims she has a good reason for what she did, and I ruined her marriage. Am I the a-hole? Edit. My cousin Rachel just told me my sister Jessie is an escort and gave Kevin an STD. Today is Thanksgiving in Canada, and dinner is going to be very awkward. Now for the top comments. You're clearly not the a-hole. Sounds like Kevin already has his suspicions if he was calling you, and the Seinfeld theme song was all it took to tip him off. This situation is Jessie's fault and no one else's. Edit. Oh my god, Opie, you read it. That is almost beyond belief. That's going to be the most intense Thanksgiving dinner of all time. Buckle up. All it took was Seinfeld theme song for the House of Cards to come crashing. And STDs. Not the a-hole. Jessie is an a-hole for using you as a cover to lie to her husband. Jessie is an a-hole for not informing you she was using you as a cover. You clearly told Jessie not to use you as a cover. Exactly. She didn't just cheat and lie, and make her sister lie and use her sister as an excuse without telling her, and get angry at her sister when her husband found out her lies. But she put the health of her husband in jeopardy by not using protection. This is a trash human. Just throw them out. She blames me and still isn't talking to me. Well, gee, all you did was tell the truth, that you hadn't seen her. You already told her you didn't want to lie to cover her affair. I think we can probably infer that's what was happening here. And she didn't even pay attention to that. Just used you as a cover without even telling you? She can go pound sand. Not stay home. She wasn't just cheating. She was moonlighting as an escort and gave Kevin an STD. If I were Opie, I would be thrilled she isn't talking to me. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my mother-in-law to be involved in my pregnancy after the stuff she said to me? Background. I lost my husband to a drunk driver 3 months ago. Ironically, we were on our way to visit his parents to tell them about my pregnancy when the accident happened. I somehow got away with just a permanent scar on my forehead while he died in a hospital 8 hours later. We were able to talk to him some hours before he passed away, and it was not pleasant. My sister-in-law, my late husband's 2 best friends, and his cousin have been really helpful through these times. Sister-in-law has come to stay with me indefinitely, and her husband has been understanding. His best friends both keep dropping by to check on me, and so does his cousin. I never got to announce my pregnancy to anyone. I just couldn't get myself to. The only people to know are the 4 above-mentioned people, and they decided it would be best if I announce it myself when I'm ready. The thing is, my mother-in-law has not been her pleasant self around me. She hates me for being the one that survived instead of her son, and I feel it too. She started accusing me of having an affair with his best friend because he came over too much. Then she accused me of hooking up with his cousin. She even accused me of sleeping with his sister, since she's been at my house so much. We're both straight women who lost someone close to us, and we decided to ban her from visiting me. Some days ago, I finally felt strong enough to announce pregnancy. I individually called up all the close family. Mother-in-law got really excited and all about the baby and asked me when she could come over to help me through my first pregnancy. I lost it and told her she didn't need to be involved with me at all and hung up. This has stirred up many problems in the family, and my resolve might be weakening. I don't want her and her snarky remarks around me during my pregnancy, and I have kept it as brief and to the point as possible. Not today, home. I am so very sorry for your loss. She needs to see a grief counselor, then apologize to you. Not stay home. First, I am so sorry about losing your beloved husband. Second, mother-in-law accused you of cheating on your husband, of sleeping around, and resents you for surviving the crash. You have no need to have mother-in-law in your life at all. Keep your doors/windows locked all the time so she can never barge in. Get a Ring doorbell, and do not answer the door until you have checked the app to see who is there. Ask sister-in-law to rein in her mom, and to tell her that at some point you may be willing to talk to her, But it is going to take a lot of time for you to forgive mother-in-law for lashing out at you while you are grieving losing your husband. Yes, she lost a son. That doesn't excuse her behavior/actions/words. A sincere apology from mother-in-law is necessary, and then you still get to take as much time as you need before allowing mother-in-law back into your life. I want to address a concern I had when you said mother-in-law was suddenly excited and wanting to be involved. Grandparents' rights are a thing. Not all states enforce them the same, but the basics are that if a grandparent has established a relationship with a grandchild, then they can petition the courts for ordered visitation. That would tie you to your in-laws for the next 18 years, without your husband being able to rein in as parents. I don't know what kind of a relationship you had with your in-laws prior to the accident. Just be aware that any kind of pattern visitation you allow could be used against you. So letting in-laws visit every weekend? No. Letting in-laws have alone time with the little one? No. Bring little one over for dinner every Sunday? No. No pattern. All visitation needs to be very random and very spaced out. 2 hours on a Sunday, 3 weeks later a lunch on Wednesday, and then 1.5 months after a meetup at a restaurant. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend I didn't want to spend time with his family after they tried to make me prove I was good enough for him? I went to meet my boyfriend's family for the first time, and it was a weird vibe. First, his brother, who is in a similar field of work, started quizzing me on my work like it was a job interview. I ended up joking that I don't talk shop unless I'm getting paid for it after that went on for a while. He asked me kinda rudely if I just got into that field to meet a wealthy man. My boyfriend and his family are wealthy, so I said that I was in it to out-earn the wealthy man. Another joke, or half-joke at least. I like my financial independence. Next, his cousins asked me if I was a workaholic, like some ex of some guy in the family who was never home and never did her household chores. I said, nah, I'm out of work at 5 on the dot. I care a lot about a good work-life balance. Then they were saying I was such a millennial, which I don't know what they meant by that. There was more, but overall it felt like a job interview, or an interrogation rather than a social event. It felt like I was being asked questions and set up to be judged. I left early after a conversation with his mom who was asking me about my homemaking skills, and not really liking my answer that my boyfriend is the better cook. And before I met him, I was eating too much takeout, but he's teaching me to cook. His mom made a comment about how in her day, women brought something special to the table. I kinda tried to play it off as a joke, saying that I'd bring him beer, but it really didn't land. Anyway, I headed out early and he stayed that night, but as soon as he left too, he wanted to talk about why I had dipped super early. I said I felt like I was being interviewed for a job of being good wifey, instead of just meeting people socially. And I feel like that's not something I enjoy. I like hanging out with people who are chill and accepting. He said it felt like they were just being protective and tried to make sure he was ending up with a good partner, and they meant well. And they are like that whenever a new partner gets introduced, but they warm up to people quick. That every woman in the family had been questioned a bit and bond over it later on. I said I already know I'm a catch, and honestly, they were disrespecting us both. Me by making judgy comments, and him by not trusting him to pick a good partner himself. I said that I didn't feel like going for Thanksgiving or Christmas anymore, unless some people apologized and agreed to not do this weird hazing stuff again. He said that he felt I was being unreasonable, that I should give them another chance at Thanksgiving. I feel like he's being insensitive and pushing me to go somewhere I'm not respected, again. Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend I don't want to go to his family's holidays after they met me, and it felt like they questioned my worth for hours? Not the a-hole. However, well, I would consider giving the family a second chance if you're serious about the partner as being able to socialize with them would make life a lot easier. Do not go at Thanksgiving or Christmas. That is a terrible idea. His family will probably be more entrenched in their ways and feeling possessive. You might well, I would, resent wasting a holiday with them if it goes badly. Leaving early would also end up being a big deal. Have a way less weighted second chance if you want to? I would not, because they sound generally sexist, as well as specifically mean. I wouldn't want to deal with that forever, but it is up to you. Not the a-hole. However, his family and he are complete a-holes. His reaction is a look into your future if you tolerate that BS from them, and from him. A lot of them clearly feel superior to not only you, but anyone who wasn't born to their tax bracket. It's not wise to ignore such blatant harbingers of relationship inequity and ingrained disrespect. You can do much better. Not at all. And how horrible you had to fend off all their questions/hazing on your own. I hope your partner at least had your back on some of it. Also, you've now clearly stated you are uncomfortable with this kind of behavior, so your partner should be addressing his family that this hazing is no longer acceptable. The women bond over their hazing period? Brr, makes me cringe. I wouldn't go either. We ended up talking to different people all night, so he wasn't really aware until I was like, alright, I'm heading out, and he was surprised. Yeah, like this is some sorority girl crap. They should be more mature than that. Next story. Am I the a-hole for hiring security for my wedding? I'm 25 female and getting married to my fiancé, 26 male, next spring, if all goes well. My father's girlfriend and her 2 children, whom I have known since I was 9 years old, are not invited. I don't want to go into it all here, but I will say that my stepmother did things that I as an adult now consider to be abusive, including stealing my belongings, trying to get me diagnosed with disorders I didn't have, and going into rages with almost no provocation. When I was 16, I left my dad's house and cut off all contact with him for years. When my fiancé proposed, it struck me that I would have nobody to walk me down the aisle, so I reconnected with my father and began repairing my relationship with him. Unfortunately, his girlfriend and her kids were still in the picture, so I was polite to them and tried to only go see my dad when I knew they weren't around. A month or so ago, my stepmother walked in on me and my father while we were going over wedding plans, and she cheerfully mentioned that she hadn't gotten an invite yet, but she would like to RSVP, so we could set aside a vegetarian meal for her, which made things awkward because I hadn't sent her an invitation because I didn't want her to come, nor her kids. None of them had apologized for or even acknowledged my childhood, except my dad. I tried to give her the chance to, but she got very sulky with me and stormed off. I'm assuming so she could whine about me to her Facebook groups, seeing as that's what she always did when I pissed her off as a kid. A couple weeks ago, she sent me a message that just said, "Can't wait to see you on your big day." I didn't reply. I just called a friend from school who had started his own security company and offered him his first ever contract, my wedding. He graciously agreed. He thanked me for the contract on Facebook. He tagged me, and since he tagged me, my family saw it and now they're telling me I'm going overboard. And weddings are supposed to be happy occasions, and the presence of security would bring down the mood. Not only this, but now my dad's side thinks I'm psycho, paranoid, etc. because you don't need a whole security team to keep out one fat lady and her 2 kids. But on the other hand, it's my wedding, right? Thoughts? Added for clarification, while talking about the veggie meal thing, I did eventually come out and say that there wouldn't be a plate for her because she and her kids weren't invited. I didn't want them there because they never apologized for what happened in my childhood. She got sulky and left. Not day home. Regardless of your personal situation, it's always a good idea to have security to an event where a bunch of adults are going to get drunk. Taking into account your situation, it's even more of a necessity. I agree with this. We had security at our wedding, but that was due to the venue requiring it. We have to give a complete guest list, so they could check off who was attending. I know not all venues have this requirement, but I have been to a couple of weddings where I had to show ID to enter. Offer your photographer a bonus if they manage to get video of security tasing her and dragging her away. Not stay home. Okay, this made me burst out laughing when I was stressing out and about to have an anxiety attack. Thank you, and I may actually do this. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for ruining the family vacation by refusing to go to dinner after my husband laughed at his cousin's joke and telling him to take his mistress instead? I found out after we were already married that it's very common for the older generation of men in my husband's family to keep mistresses, as long as they're discreet about it and don't have any outside babies. We went on vacation with my husband's family, including his sister, cousins, and their spouses. My sister-in-law needed to get some new clothes because she was supposed to leave earlier than the rest of us, but decided to stay. While we were shopping, the shop assistant was flirting with my husband. His cousin James made jokes about adding her to my husband's collection of girls in every country, and how he always said a leopard never changes his spots, and that a new marriage couldn't stop my husband. My husband and his other male cousins thought it was the funniest thing ever. I didn't find it so funny, and neither did his sister, who told James to shut up. In the evening, we were supposed to go for dinner, and my husband noticed I wasn't getting ready, so he asked me to hurry up. I told him I didn't want to go. We had an argument where he was saying James was just joking. I told him I didn't find it funny, and he could take his mistress to dinner instead. He kept insisting he didn't have a mistress, and that James was just making a dumb joke and he was sorry for laughing, but I refused to budge. In the end, none of the other girls went to dinner with them. We all ended up going somewhere together and wouldn't let them come with us. For the rest of the vacation, my sister-in-law insisted we would treat it like a girls' trip, and the boys could do whatever they wanted without us. My husband was pissed at me for overreacting to a joke and ruining the family vacation, especially since James apologized too, but things didn't go back to normal. Was I the a-hole? Joking about a mistress is a deeply disrespectful thing to do. It sounds like you weren't the only woman fed up with this kind of banter. It is a shame the holiday wasn't what any of you planned it to be, but you are not the a-hole for being upset. I will say this, now that you are home, perhaps it is time to move past it. Make it abundantly clear that these kinds of jokes are not tolerated, but let it go. If it happens again, then it might be time to worry about the people in your life and reevaluate things. But until then, enjoy life. Good luck. This. Dump the husbands, sister-in-laws included, if they won't change. Keep the rest of the family. They sound cool. Not day home. And good on you women supporting each other. Adultery isn't a joke, and if your husband thinks it is, he has to think again. When you found out about the tradition, did you discuss it with your husband? What did you agree? How about the girls make a joke about the wife having a sideman, and see if he thinks that is so hilarious. Let's see if he feels embarrassed in front of his family. He shouldn't, right? It's just a dumb joke. Not day home. But culturally, I'll bet if you took a discreet lover or you ladies joked over having one join you on your ladies' time out, that he wouldn't be laughing either. Am I the a-hole for not taking in my parents' adopted son? I'm 28-year-old male. I had average childhood. My parents provided everything but nothing extra. And when I was 17, they decided to adopt another child, Chris, 7-year-old male. I went to university at 18 and moved out, and my parents told me they could not financially help me because they have another child now. I admit, I resented that. I had to work and go to college. For the first 2 years, I couldn't get into university dorms, so I had to rent, which was much more expensive. I can't count how many times I hadn't eaten for 2 to 3 days. It was horrible, and I consider that the worst experience of my life. It got easier after I got into dorms, but I still couldn't afford anything extra, like going to the party and such. In all these years, I slowly distanced myself from my parents, and I don't see Chris as my brother. To this day, we see each other max 2 times a year, even though we live 25 minutes away. They don't even know I married my partner. This happened at Christmas dinner. In the middle of dinner, my parents told me that Chris is going to university in the same area I live in and asked if he could stay with me. They would pay for rent and expenses. Now, I live in a townhouse in the middle of all faculties. I'm in prime spot. I don't rent rooms, but if I would, rent would be highest in the city. I was triggered when my parents said they would pay for him. So I said that they can't afford to rent a room in my place and to look elsewhere. All family there were shocked by my response, and my parents were somewhat taken aback. Since then, a couple of family members told me I'm an a-hole for not helping my family. My parents texted me to reconsider and help my brother, and that he is very upset his big brother won't help him. I told them he is their son, but he is not my brother, and I have no obligation towards him. Even Chris texted me and begged me to reconsider, but I just ignore him, and everyone else for that matter. The problem is my partner, who is good, kind soul and is starting to get to me. So, what do you think? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your partner and everyone else needs to back off. Your parents didn't care about you guys being family until they saw money to be made. To your partner, I think you need to be very, very clear. Having this person in my house will hurt me. I am not interested in letting you or anyone else hurt me. Yes, you may need to let her in more so she can understand your perspective. I made this mistake with my husband always pushing back for a better relationship with his family, but after 16 years together, things have revealed themselves. I don't push back anymore. I should have listened from the start and simply taken his word about his family. Not the a-hole. Your parents or other family did not help you. You don't have to help them. Your adopted brother is not your responsibility. They are willing to pay for him, so he will be okay either way. I agree with this. OP, you need to ask them and the family why was it okay to cut you off from any assistance, let you starve, and offer no support. But it falls on you to provide all this for Chris? Now, I agree Chris probably didn't understand at a time how they treated you. Maybe you need to talk to him. He's at an age that he'll understand. Maybe not agree, but talking to him like an adult and having a conversation about what you went through would be a good first step. Same with your partner. They need to understand that this being pushed on you will cause a lot of hurt and resentment of all parties, including your feelings towards them and your relationship, if you don't feel supported and solidarity in your decision. This is your family, so as much as they are entitled to an opinion, you should have final say. Your parents or Chris are more than capable of a plan B. And remember, all you had to do was say, no, it's not possible to have them or anyone else live with us. Sadly, I think offering up that rent would be too expensive gave them hope or the glimmer of opportunity that it's possible but with a price tag, unfortunately, which will lead to the barrage of calls and texts you don't want, thinking bullying you into it will be the ticket to get what they want. You're feeling be damned. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother I will help him at his children but not his wife? My brother and I were adopted into the same family. He's white and I'm a dark-skinned black woman. Our parents were an interracial couple, and our family had some unique challenges over the years. But our parents did their very best by us and tried their hardest to get us as much information as possible with our birth families. It was a little easier with mine because I was orphaned, and I had 2 older living birth relatives who were just incapable of caring for me and needed care themselves. My brother had a very different story though, as he had no information at all. When he was 20, he met his wife and they married after 2 years of dating. She always gave me bad vibes. Around the time they got engaged, he told me she kept bringing up his birth family and how he should find them before the wedding. I had told him he didn't have to do anything, but he knew mom and dad would help him and he'd have my support. Then she went behind his back to find him via DNA, and it was a crap show. But for some reason, he forgave her and decided to meet the people, which she was thrilled about. It was around that time she told me to get lost, because he had sisters who were actually related to him and not a, you can guess the slur, who always made his life more difficult. She told me I was crazy if I thought I'd be in her wedding photos. She also said our parents should get used to having only one child. My brother had already started to pull away by then, and because I was hurt and angry, I never told him what went down between his now wife and I. I chose to not attend his wedding, and I know from our parents that the day was very messy. 6 years of no contact happened, and then he reached out and apologized for letting anything come between us. We have been back on speaking terms for over a year now. It took a while, but we are doing so much better. I always loved my brother, but was hurt by the stuff that went down between us and me and his wife. A few days ago, my brother's family ended up in a shelter. He lost the job he had for many years and took a huge pay cut in a new one, at the same time that his former landlord decided to illegally kick them out by changing the locks. My brother did contact a lawyer, but nothing is as fast as they show in TV and the movies, and they have no place to go. I live in the same city, which would allow him to keep what job he has now at least, and so he asked if they could stay. I said I would help him and the kids and they could stay, but his wife is not welcome in my home. He told me he would take that, which did surprise me some. His wife is angry. She came after me about separating her children from her and how unhealthy it will be for them to see her in a crap hole, while they're safe and comfortable with me. She called me all kinds of names, like petty and witchy and an a-hole. But it was the comment about the kids that got me questioning. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Nope. Let's call her what she is, a racist. She can't call you names to your face and encourage your brother to cut ties, then want to be looked after because it suits her. I would have told him and would still suggest you tell him now, because if she is bringing up the kids to have the same attitude, then nothing gets resolved. You have set a boundary. Keep to it. Opie should be careful. She doesn't know how much brother has changed. He might try to sneak sister-in-law in, or she might constantly be visiting because she wants to be near her children and husband if the brother and kids move in. A lot of guilt tripping can happen for the sake of the children. Not the a-hole at all. That woman is hideous, and I hope this is the first step in your brother divorcing her and taking full custody of the children. If you haven't already, it's time to explain to your brother what she said and why you refuse to let her into your life. Provide a safe and loving home for your brother and his kids. Be a model for a loving and secure family relationship. It may be the first time they see a woman give them consistent loving attention, because I doubt their mom is doing it. Yeah, I would have told a brother the minute it happened. Yeah, that I never told him is some TV drama BS. Oh my god, I'm about to cry imagining my brother allowing me to marry some racist witch. And then going no contact for 6 years because he thought the conversation was too awkward. I kinda believe the brother has to know she's a horrible person at least. Maybe not exactly what she said, but you know she's made some crazy comments about Opie in front of the brother. Not the a-hole. She can't expect you to help her after she treated you like garbage and outed herself as a racist. She brought this 100% upon herself, And she also sounds like a bad influence for the children. She's the a-hole, not you. Next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving my son's wedding after he denied his stepmom a mother-son dance? My son Jordan is 27. His stepmom Natalie came into his life when he was 16. His mom had passed away when he was 13. Jordan never really considered Natalie as his mom. He refused to let her get close and shut down every attempt to have a close relationship. He even moved in with his aunt months after Natalie and I got married. As years went by, they started reconciling and seeing each other more often, and he invited us to his wedding, which took place days ago. We got there and the atmosphere was great, until later when I found out that Jordan had denied Natalie a mother-son dance and instead chose his aunt to dance with him. Natalie told me this minutes later, and I couldn't help feel irritated and quite upset. I decided to get up and leave, and we both left. I got a call from my family after they saw me leave, and Jordan called later, and I told him why I did it. He got mad and said it was his wedding, and that his aunt is basically a mother to him, and said that Natalie shouldn't expect special treatment. I said it's not special treatment, but a tradition. Besides that, he hurt her feelings for no reason, other than for the sake of being malicious. He got offended and accused me of ruining his day and causing a scene. Now the family sided with him and said I shouldn't have left no matter what. Now for the comments. You're the a-hole. Your wife has never been his mother, and he has every right to not have a mother-son dance with her. I strongly suspect this isn't the first time you've chosen your wife over your son, and it's probably why he moved in with his aunt. If you want any kind of relationship with your son going forward, I very much recommend both you and your wife apologize for throwing a tantrum at his wedding. For Opie's son to have moved out after only a few months, I have a feeling the reason is because Opie and his wife were trying to force him to accept the stepmom as his mom right from the start. And after all that happened, Opie's son invites them both to his wedding, and Opie has the audacity to demand a mother-son dance? Then they leave when they don't get their way. Wow, there goes any chance of them mending their relationship. You're the a-hole. Sounds plausible. I've heard similar stories on here. The Opie's keeping suspiciously quiet about why his son doesn't like Opie's wife. As it stands, she's not Opie's son's mother. She didn't raise him and he doesn't like her. Yet Opie and his wife expect her to be given the mother-son dance. The sheer entitlement of it is astounding. Take it from me, my wife has never mistreated him in any way whatsoever. Matter of fact, she even contributed towards his education, although he has no idea, because if he knew, he wouldn't have accepted it. That right there should tell you how he feels about her. He doesn't see her as a mother, so why would he do a mother-son dance? Seriously, this wasn't done to hurt your wife. Stop trying to force a relationship that doesn't exist and made very clear to you. Wow, you're the a-hole. Way to make your son's wedding all about you and your wife. You already said that he never considered her as his mom. So why in the hell did you expect him to invite her to do something that is traditionally for mothers and sons? For all intents and purposes, his aunt is a hell of a lot more of a mother to him than your wife. You are selfish, entitled people. Disgusting, and you should be ashamed. Welp, any progress that his son and wife made in developing any shred of relationship has been flushed down the drain. Opie's relationship with his son will never recover what it was. He left his own son's wedding. Jesus Christ. If he thought shunning his son at his wedding was okay, it makes me wonder how many times he has done it in the past. Thank goodness his son has a loving family outside of his horrid parent. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to parent my 28-year-old sister because her behavior is my parents' faults and their problem? My parents had my sister Connie, 28 female, when I was 15, and they acted more like grandparents to Connie than actual parents. They spoiled Connie and didn't enforce boundaries. They outright encouraged her to misbehave because they thought it was cute/funny for her to throw tantrums or show people the finger. And my parents have continued to enable Connie well into adulthood. They allowed Connie to drop out of high school because she wanted to get a GED and enter college early. Connie never actually got a GED nor returned to school, and she still lives with my parents and refuses to get a job. My parents will try to nag Connie to earn her GED or get a job, but she just won't, and there's no real consequence if she refuses anyway. If Connie wants something and my parents refuse, she'll scream her head off like a child until our parents give in. My mom is now in her late 60s and my dad just turned 70, and they claim they just don't have the energy to deal with Connie. My parents had a grandparent day with my children and took them to the mall. They brought my children back to my house, stayed for dinner, and then asked to talk with me privately. They explained that they can't deal with Connie's behavior anymore and wanted Connie to move in with me and my family so that I could essentially become Connie's disciplinarian and re-raise her to be a proper adult. I told my parents no. I have 3 actual children. I don't have time to parent a 28-year-old toddler. Nor do I want Connie's tantrums and screaming in my house. My mom tried to make the excuse that I need to step in because she and my father just don't have the energy to deal with Connie. I was frank with my parents that Connie's behavior is their own fault, and now it's their problem. They weren't always in their late 60s. They had years to step up and stop enabling Connie. I'm certain there's boot camp or other program that exists to get adults like Connie to grow up, but that's their responsibility to arrange and look into. Some family members have reached out to tell me that I was being selfish and childish because my mom and dad were both great parents to me, and now it's supposed to be my turn to support them. Most of these family members understand why I don't want Connie's tantrums and fits around my kids, but said that I should still help my parents look into other options. I don't deny that my mom and dad were great parents to me, but it's still not my responsibility to be a parent to my adult sister. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Tell those family members who are giving you grief that they are welcome to step up. You are too busy raising your own children. Luckily, my aunt-in-law and her children are looking into options for boot camp/programs to get adults to grow up. But they are still telling me that I should be the one helping because I'm my parents' child and Connie's sister. We may be family, but I still recognize that Connie is my parents' responsibility. Not the a-hole. Keep your distance. Tell the relatives. It sounds like they are on the right track, but stop blaming you. They are looking to create more family drama and placing blame at the wrong door. Not the a-hole. WTF. She's 28. She can learn to live on her own. Only on paper. She dropped out of high school and has probably not learned at all what independence and responsibilities are. Not just her education development was set back, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were set back in other ways, like mentally or neurologically, compared to others their age. She's going to need therapy to confront that and try to undo that mess. I honestly feel bad for her for how bad Opie's parents failed raising her. Instead of everyone's trying to set her straight other than slight nudges, they just continuously enabled it. Unfortunately, she's got a lot of growing up to do and fast, but it's not Opie's problem, it's his parents. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. In what world is having a 28-year-old move into your home because they are spoiled, entitled, and hard to be around a good solution to the problem? It would not be a good environment for your kids to be around a person like that, and it's good that you did not even consider it. If the family members trying to guilt you into it care so much, why don't they let her come stay with them? First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not paying for my cousin's wedding despite ruining it by having a mental health crisis? My favorite cousin was supposed to get married last year, but postponed to this year with only close family and friends invited, a total of 30 people. I was excited to go, as I live alone and my parents died when I was in college, so I try to make family a priority when I can. At the wedding, my aunts kept picking at me for being single, as family does when you get to your mid-20s with no partner, and something in my brain apparently broke. I don't fully understand what happened, but I started crying, just inconsolable weeping. I remember slumping to the ground crying, but after that, it's like my brain just shut off. I don't remember saying anything, but according to my relatives in the hospital, I kept rocking and crying. The next thing I remember, I was in the hospital feeling very calm. They kept me overnight, but released me saying it was just a panic attack. My cousin's wedding did not go well because of, well, that happening. In a wedding with 30 people, one person having a not minor mental health crisis is very hard to cover up or hide, and it derailed the events. She and her new husband are now raging that I ruined their wedding, and now owe them the cost of the wedding. I said no. I didn't intentionally ruin their wedding. I had a terrifying mental health incident that I am seeking care for. I've never had anything like that happen before. I get nervous sometimes, but it's never been like that. I don't even like crying in front of people. I am trying to seek therapy, but the closest appointment I can get is 6 months from now. Also, I don't have the money to pay for an entire wedding. Yes, I have savings, but I have to save that for the possibility of something happening in my own life because I'm the only person I really have. Obviously, the breakdown that happened at her wedding was over-emotional way of putting it. But the truth is that I am unlikely to ever find someone. I'm 25 years old. I have to take time to get my mental health in check. And even if I was 100% fine, there's no way for me to meet anyone now anyway. I only have myself. Everyone in my family has partners and a family. I'm completely alone. I mean, I even had to Uber home from the hospital because I don't even have parents anymore as they passed 3 years ago, and you don't get closer to your cousins by going crazy around them. They are now threatening me with being cut out of the family. I told them they were only proving my point, and have put everyone on mute since. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Everyone sucks here. You don't owe them the cost of the wedding. That's ridiculous. If a guest had a heart attack at the wedding, I doubt they would ask them for money. Your complete breakdown did ruin their day though. Edited to add, if you didn't want your mental health remarked on, then the post should have read, "Am I the a-hole for not paying for my cousin's wedding when I had a medical emergency during the event?" However, friends and family lose their sympathy quickly when an ill person, or addict, will not get help. The way you described the wedding event suggests that you need professional help with this ASAP. Already needed it prior to this, really. You say you are trying to seek therapy, but there are many therapy options even in COVID, and your family may be reaching their breaking point supporting you. Leave them aside for the moment and focus on getting yourself the help you need. Yes, I agree with this. OP, you say nothing like this has happened before, but it sounds like you had mental health problems before that perhaps you weren't taking care of. You're catastrophizing even in the post. There's no way for me to meet anyone now anyway. This is just ridiculous. You're 25. You don't live on Mars. You have access to the internet and presumably a job. Get the help you need. Okay, I'm going with a very gentle "everyone sucks" here. Your aunts suck for picking on you for being single. At 25, you are not an old crone. You absolutely have time to find someone. Not that there's an age limit on love. My great-grandpa got remarried at 86. Also, it's rude as hell to make fun of people for their relationship status at any age. Your cousin sucks for expecting you to reimburse the whole wedding. That is ridiculous. Everyone that isn't you sucks for not removing you from the situation. You should have been escorted from the room to get some space and allow the rest of the guests, and the bride and the groom, to continue enjoying themselves. You suck for two things: your attitude and love. Seriously, at 25, you're not destined to always be alone. Get a grip. And for not leaving the space when you started crying. I have had many panic attacks, and I've been able to leave the space before breaking down. Obviously, everyone's mental health is different, but once it was clear you were getting very upset, you should have excused yourself. Again, this is a gentle "everyone sucks" here because panic attacks can catch you off guard, especially if this was your first. Not the a-hole for not paying, not the a-hole for an unavoidable crisis, but your whining about being single makes me think you aren't actually being apologetic to them and are taking a woe me attitude. You did ruin their wedding, and your breakdown is what everyone is going to remember about it. The least you could do is not make the aftermath about you too. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for calling my mom a terrible parent and temporarily running away after learning she listens to my therapy sessions? A little bit of context. I, 17 male, just started therapy because I was feeling incredibly overwhelmed and I relapsed into some bad habits. My mother, 48 female, is quite the traditional woman, and it took a lot of convincing because she thinks therapy is for crazy people. Anyways, I have been talking to my therapist for about a month now, and it's really helped me open up about a certain thing I wasn't comfortable with, like my dad's alcohol addiction, etc. My mom and dad are separated. So one day, I mentioned that my mom can be a little too much, and she forces me so much I cry myself into sleep for weeks because she keeps criticizing me. After I came home from that, my mother was looking a little angry, and I asked her what happened. She started screeching that I was an ungrateful brat, and that if I have a problem with her, I should say it to her face. She then started to call me some horrible names, and saying that I didn't appreciate her enough, that I'm, and I quote, "nothing like she imagined me growing up." That was the last straw. I just got angry and told her she was a terrible mom and packed my bags to crash at a friend's house not far away. By the way, my friend is okay with it. She knows sometimes my household isn't safe and she's very welcoming. So, I actually have been thinking, and I think I might be a little bit of an a-hole here, because I do feel ungrateful, and I do think that she might have been a little right. After all, she escaped from my abusive dad, And I feel like I might overreacted by leaving her for now, but this is eating me alive. Edit. I don't know how she heard what I said at the therapy session, but knowing her and my past experiences, it is very likely she snooped around on purpose. Not an a-hole at all. Therapy is private time to talk about what hurts your mental health. It was way out of line for her to listen, and even more so to lash out at you for it. Do you know how she listened in? Not an a-hole. Please inform your therapist of what happened. Not an a-hole. Your mother was absolutely wrong from start to finish here. 1. Criticizing you to the point that you cry yourself to sleep. 2. Spying on your therapy sessions. Not sure how this happened, but it is a horrifying invasion of privacy. 3. Blowing up at you for your feelings. You are entitled to your feelings and to express them, even if someone wishes you felt differently. 4. Insulting you and telling you that you're nothing like she imagined. That is wildly unacceptable, arguably abusive behavior. This behavior sounds like that of someone who is emotionally abusive. You mentioned that your father was also, but that doesn't rule out her being mistreating to you. You, in contrast, have been great. You did all the right things, from talking to your therapist to leaving the house when the mistreatment escalated. Your mother is supposed to care for and protect you, that instead, she's hurting you. You should be damn proud of the fact that you are caring for and protecting yourself, and keep doing it. That guilt you feel? That's the desired consequence of her manipulative, abusive behavior. Acknowledge it and then reject it as BS. You're good, kiddo. Keep taking care of yourself. You deserve it. Not an a-hole. Therapy sessions are confidential for exactly this reason, so you feel safe discussing any topic you wish without the fear of any repercussions. What your mother did was a horrible violation of your privacy and your trust, and, ironically, proved the point you were making to your therapist. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to attend my brother's funeral? So, some background. I, 23 female, had an older brother, Lance. He was 8 years older than me, and he absolutely despised me. Ever since the day I was born, he hated my guts and set out to make me as miserable as possible. Reason being was because he hated having a sibling, especially a sister, and was happy being an only child. To say that he was a bully is a major understatement. Our parents initially ignored it, as they thought it was just normal sibling rivalry. But when I was 5, they finally looked into his behavior and tried their very best to correct it. Nothing worked though. He got only worse and worse and meaner. One incident stands out in my mind. I was 6. He locked me out of the house when there was a tornado warning. Out of all the things he's done to me, that was the worst. Because there actually was a tornado on the ground and it almost hit our neighborhood. When I was 10, he graduated high school and moved out. The last thing he said to me before he left was that I was worthless and would amount to nothing. Thankfully, that was the end of his days of bullying me. In the past 13 years that have passed since Lance moved out, we've only seen each other on a couple of occasions, one of which being his wedding, and he ignored me in all of them. Didn't even acknowledge my presence. He has 2 sons who I don't even know or were even introduced to. He told me that I would never amount to anything and was worthless. Well, I'm in nursing school hoping to fulfill my dream of becoming a nurse, and I have a wonderful doting boyfriend. Well, 2 weeks ago, I got a phone call from my mom. Lance was coming home from work and he lost control of his car and wrapped it around a streetlight. By the time the ambulance got there, he was already gone. I only felt heartbroken for my parents because you should never have to bury your child, but I felt nothing towards him. I made it clear to my parents that I was not going to Lance's funeral. Not after his years of bullying. They were not happy. They begged me to go, saying that I need to be the bigger person. He's dead and can't hurt me anymore. I need to be there for them, and I don't know the pain of losing a child. I understood how they felt, but he never once apologized for all these years of mistreatment. Not one word of remorse or regret. They tried insisting that he was a changed person, but I stood my ground and did not go. My abuser did not deserve my grief or my presence. If he had apologized, then I might have attended, but it didn't. My parents were absolutely furious that I didn't show up, and announced that they will never speak to me again, and they haven't since. My boyfriend stands by my decision, but I've been getting nothing but backlash from other family members saying I should have just swallowed my pride and went to Lance's funeral. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not a hole. He is gone now. You never owed him anything. Not attending his funeral has changed your relationship with your parents. He was their son, but he wasn't your brother, and I hope that someday they can understand why you chose not to attend. This is the hill you chose to die on, so be prepared to not speak with your parents for some time. A dead a-hole is still an a-hole, not an a-hole. Not an a-hole. It was nearly no a-holes here, but your parents choosing to lose both children over this tipped the scale. Funerals are for the living. Your parents needing your support there isn't a surprise. They are grieving in a way that isn't comprehensible to those who have never experienced such a loss. You, though, have zero obligation to go to your brother's funeral. In time, I hope your parents come back around and they process their grief. Opie's parents' actions make it fairly obvious he was the golden child and she was the scapegoat. Even in death, he's more important than Opie. Are they really willing to lose you too over this? Then not an a-hole, because they obviously don't care a bit about you. They were willing to risk losing her when they chose not to protect her the first 5 years of her life, or do anything when he tried to wed her as a little girl. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for making my 19-year-old cry because I said we have nothing in common, and that's why we aren't close? My daughter 19 and I 40 female live together. She's in online college, so home all the time. We're total opposites. I am a girly girl, she is a sweats and throw hair up in a bun type. She is into anime, which I try to watch with her, but it's the most annoying thing ever. She also loves comics, so I did learn about them when she was younger. Basics like Supergirl and Superman are cousins, etc. So we sort of talk about that, but it's hard because she knows so much and I don't. I used to do a mother-daughter book club with her, but she kinda didn't want to do that when she was in high school. So the other day, she said she wanted to talk. She said she was upset that we didn't have a mother-daughter bond. I told her I love her very much, and I'm sorry she feels like that. She said other mothers are super close to their daughters, and I pointed out that they have common interests, do spa days, make up together, etc., and we don't have that much in common. She started crying and won't talk to me. My ex called and yelled at me, saying I'm a horrible person. Takes her to fix furnaces and stuff, and suggested I do stuff like that, and I told him I barely know what a furnace looks like and can barely use a hammer, so it's a bit hard to bond over home improvement. My cousin also called and yelled at me. I feel bad, but I have tried, and I love her and support her, so I'm not sure what else I can do. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. If you had followed up that you have nothing in common with, but let's work together to explore things we both like and do those things as mother/daughter, then my opinion may have been different. No a-holes here. If most of your activities aren't for her and vice versa, as you detailed above, there is a third option. That said, no one is forcing you to be close, but if it's something you both want, then it seems that you have some work to do. Just my opinion. No one is forcing you to be close. I mean, she is her mom, so she does have an obligation as a parent to have a healthy bond with her daughter. You're the a-hole. You're not the a-hole because you struggle to find things in common with your teenage daughter. You're the a-hole because your daughter desired something meaningful and relevant. She reached out to you and expressed herself maturely and respectfully, and you shut her down with a flimsy, and frankly lazy, excuse. Your child made herself vulnerable to you, and you dismissed her because she's boring to you. Not your exact words, I know, but I guarantee that's how it came across. Go back to your daughter and say something along the lines of our conversation through me because we're interested in such different things. Let's find a way to make that work for us. Let's plan something around, insert one of her interests here, then we'll try insert one of your interests. Make an effort as her mother. Don't be lazy about this. Or they could make a list of new interests that they can explore together. Things that neither of them is currently involved in, so that is not a my interests versus your interests struggle. It sounds like the daughter likes working with her hands and mom is a girly girl. Maybe there's an art or a craft that they could both learn? And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.